Welcome back to Informed Sources. Tennessee will soon be getting a new attorney general. Now, there are no candidates in this race. There's no one for you to vote for. The selection process is uniquely Tennessee. The state Supreme Court will be making that selection. Current Tennessee Attorney General Herbert Slattery announced back in May that he plans to step down when his 8-year term wraps up later this year. The 70-year-old is the first Republican to hold that office since Reconstruction. And, by the way, Tennessee is the only state in the country where the state Supreme Court appoints the Attorney General. In most states, including Mississippi and Arkansas here in the Mid-South, the position is elected by the people. So this is unusual. Why do you think Tennessee, Chris, chose this method, and what do you think of it?
I think it's great. There's obviously a lot of different options out there, but we have a good Supreme Court. They're knowledgeable, they're trusted, and I think what it does is it insulates that selection a little bit from partisan politics. Now, obviously, the Supreme Court justices, they get their own appointment. Maybe they have a partisan lean either way, but this is sort of insulating what is a very, very important office from base party politics. And like I said, we've got a good court. I think there's going to be a lot of good candidates, and we've done it like this for a long time. I think that whether under Republican administrations or Democratic administrations, we've had well-respected attorney generals, and I expect that to continue.
Pastor Keith might disagree with the partisanship. You know, I'm wondering here, Slattery has served since 2014. Bob Cooper was a Democrat. He held the office before that. But you have 5 justices on the high court here. I believe 4 of them were appointed by Republicans. So does that pretty much close the door on any Democrats being appointed to this position?
It completely closes the door, and it takes away any objective voice that can come in and give advice to the governor. This is the chief law enforcement officer in the state, and this is the person that would advise the governor and give an opinion on those critical mass issues. We have enough of those issues right now that we need an independent voice that we can vote for, and especially when we don't like the outcomes of the gubernatorial office and the Supreme Court, you need an attorney general that the people would vote for and put into office, or at least one that can have some connection to the people of the state of Tennessee. If that office is continuously appointed by the Supreme Court, nods from the governor, because they apply. You can apply for that particular position.
And the application is open.
The application is open. The governor gets to look at those and then give recommendations. And his nod is typically the person who the Supreme Court is going to bring on. Bill Haslam gave the nod to Slattery. Slattery is the person who holds the office. I think that system needs to change. There's been a piece of legislation introduced that would give the people an opportunity to vote, but it hasn't gained any traction.
You know, you mentioned an interesting point. It seems that people who do apply for this office have been in politics in the past. I think of Charles Burson, who was former chief of staff for Vice President Gore. Slattery worked with Haslam as well. So when you take a look at that, is that the type of person that's probably going to end up getting this job, do you think, Chris?
It's hard to say. I mean, to Reverend Norman's point, I think that there's also some consultation going on behind the scenes with the General Assembly, with the governor's office. There is an application process where I think anybody can put in. If you're a lawyer, if you have a JD, you can put in.
So you do have to be an attorney to apply.
I think so. I probably should check that, but I'm pretty sure.
So.
Yeah, so there is going to be a process, but there's informal consultation. I think that the Supreme Court does not make this decision in a vacuum. I think they talk to other leaders and go from there.
Yeah, again, I'm going to take the opposing somewhat view on that. And that is, we really need, if we want to see the Tennessee that is recognized across the world as being a leader, we rank, and you spoke about progress of the Lee administration, but we've moved from 49 to 47. We moved from, 50 to 42 in some cases. Upward bound is good, but let's be clear. We need voices that are objective. I think about voices like Camille McMullen, for instance, who sits on the Court of Criminal Appeals, where that voice, an African-American woman, especially during a time when we're talking about abortion and the trigger laws in the state of Tennessee, if her voice is sitting there to advise the governor and to help find a path for saying how are we going to deal with this critical issue since the overturning of Roe versus Wade, that's the kind of voice we need in that position, or voices like hers and others who would at least be independent and be strong enough to inform and take a position that might not be the same as the Supreme Court the federal Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, and the governor's office.
Well, you do mention, you talk about the AG is the state's legal advisor,
right.
Does advise the governor and also the legislative branch as well, takes care of all the litigation. Will abortion, do you think, still be on the plate when this new Attorney General takes office? Because I believe they take office September 1st.
Yeah.
That appointment has to be made pretty quickly.
I think the laws in the state of Tennessee are pretty clear post-Dobbs, which was the decision that overturned Roe v. Wade. I think it's going to be an issue on the edges in specific cases, but we have a constitutional amendment, we have the trigger law. I think those are going into effect, and I don't think in terms of whether or not abortion is going to be allowed in Tennessee is really going to be up for debate anymore. I think, like I said, it's going to be at the margins, but I think that issue has been decisively closed.
We've run out of time on this segment, but we'll get to another one here in just a moment, because when we come back, we are shifting gears to the controversy surrounding the Shelby County Clerk's office. Will it affect how Shelby County residents vote in the upcoming election? That's coming up next on Informed Sources.